On this episode of Sauce and Hench, we discuss the Bears game against the Green Bay Packers, the playoff matchup against the Saints coming up, and the Bulls win over the Dallas Mavericks. Sauce and Hench is up next. And this is the 7th episode of Sauce and Hench. I'm Sauce, and Hench is actually in Florida for this episode. He was too excited about the Bears making the playoffs to wait and come back to Fort Wayne, but he's chilling down there in Florida, enjoying the nice weather, going to Disney, watching the Bears. And he told me, he texted me, he says, let's get this one done because I'm too excited to not get one done today. On Sunday, the tradition continues even when we're miles and miles away.
Absolutely. Yeah. I knew that shows the dedication to our fans that we have. You know, I'm all the way down here in Florida, but I'm ready to knock one out for them Bears fans because I know you want to hear what me and Sauce have to say about that playoff picture and that playoff game that we got this upcoming Sunday. They released the schedule. So,
well, I said on the intro that we would talk about the Packers game, but I didn't exactly say how in depth we were going to go into the game. I would say that the Bears looked pretty good on offense. The offense was doing their job. They were nice and slow and methodical, leaving Rodgers on the sidelines to watch. How many we had like 2 or 3 drives. There's over 7 minutes, which you can't complain. 4 out of 5 on fourth down conversions. But the biggest issue for me is that our defense, I don't know what happened. They have regressed all year long. They looked awful today when Packers took the field.
My first question to you is, because I seriously, like I said, we're in Florida. I don't really know much. All I know is that when I was first trying to get my stream going down here, the first thing I saw was Roquan coming off the field, and then he wasn't on the field the rest of the game. I couldn't really get any information on it because I didn't want to log off the stream because I didn't know if it was going to buffer back on. So seriously, right now, like, you're going to be the one breaking the news to me. Like, have you heard anything about Roquan? Is he going to be ready for the playoffs, or what are they saying?
I've looked, and it said elbow injury, but they put questionable to return to the game. So that's a good sign that that by the time we play the Saints on Sunday, which is a good thing we play on Sunday because that's given us plenty of time to not only get Roquan back, but also Jalen Johnson. And I don't know if you saw it, but Montgomery had a slight scare today. He kind of hyperextended his leg on the first drive, but he came right back out, looked normal. He did great running and catching the ball. But from what I saw, I haven't really looked into it after the game ended, but Roquan was questionable with an elbow injury. I'd say he'd be a go for Sunday. I think we play the afternoon game, the 3 o'clock game Central Time, so 4 o'clock your time.
Yeah, because me and my dad were just obviously, I think we've alluded to it a couple of times that my dad's a pretty big Browns fan. So in the Henschel household on Sunday next week, it'll be Bears and then Browns in the playoffs for the first time in forever. So I think it's 17 or 18 years for them. So
18.
We'll have 18.
It's funny, Joe, because the Browns, the last time they made the playoffs was 2002. My sister, who's a freshman in college, graduated high school, was born in 2002. So the last time the Browns made the playoffs was for really a lifespan of someone was born and graduated high school.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's going to be – that Sunday is going to be probably one of the most fun sports days that we've had together. And I mean, back-to-back, my team and his team, that's going to be a fun day. So, but yeah, like you said, getting back to the point, it's for me, Eastern time, 4 o'clock, and for you, your time, Central time, 3 o'clock. So, and we got the Saints, and the reason I bring up Roquan is because you said our defense regressed or whatever. The one thing I look at is if you look at Rodgers isn't stupid, so he attacks 2 things. He looks at the defense and says, "Who can I attack?" Well, when he sits back and looks at our defense, he's obviously going to attack the spots to where Jalen Johnson isn't at, and he attacked. I mean, every second you looked, he's attacking Duke Shelley. Me and you, I like Duke Shelley when all the pressure isn't on him. Like we talked about him, I still think he's a better option than Buster Screen, obviously, but because I still think he plays tougher than Screen and gives us a better chance at that position. but Rodgers was attacking him all day because he knew that's all he needed to do. And then as soon as Roquan got hurt, we were screwed because if a linebacker got switched to a wide receiver, Woods or Danny, we've talked about this in podcasts that Danny's a step slower than he used to be, and Woods is 10 times slower than Roquan is. So you saw it in one play in particular is the drive that put him up by 12. The pass to Lazard, Woods got switched to him, and he was like 4 or 5 steps behind him.
And Woods looked awful in coverage because even when – I remember when Roquan went out, because you had said this last week, like if Roquan's out, we don't stand a chance in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And as soon as Roquan went out, I said out loud, they're going to attack that side of the field. And sure enough, they got inside the 10, and he completed the pass to the tight end. I believe it was Tunyon, because Woods didn't switch off to him. He didn't communicate with Danny, and Rodgers is going to make that throw every time with a pitch and catch at that point, put right on the chest, and Tunyon fell into the end zone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we definitely need Roquan back.
Yeah, I mean, I love Khalil Mack with he's been one of my favorite players since he's came aboard, but Roquan has developed into literally the best player on that defense because, I mean, you just see – I mean, we saw the impact it took when Hicks came out in the middle of the season, but you just see how big of an impact it is because, Danny's a step slower than what he was in his prime, but Roquan's so fast that he can cover up for a lot of that.
Right.
And you see how big of an impact it is when a guy like Roquan steps out and a guy like Woods steps in, who is that shows you that Roquan didn't get selected to the Pro Bowl, but that is a Pro Bowl player. When a guy like that is gone, you see how big of a difference it is from Roquan to just an average linebacker, because he's an above average linebacker, and with him gone, it's just such a hole in our defense.
Well, yeah, and you have Rodgers, who I wouldn't say is the ideal athletic quarterback. He's not Lamar Jackson, but dude, his football IQ is through the roof. He might be top 3 smartest quarterbacks in the NFL.
Easily.
Him, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees would be the top 3 smartest quarterbacks in my opinion. But once you start Roquan go out, and Rodgers knew, okay, well now I can spread out my offense and attack that middle of the field and attack Woods and try to force you say Scanley? Yeah, Scanley. Onto one-on-one coverages with Devontae Adams. And then David Trevathan got absolutely burned by Valtez Scanley, and that was just awful. I don't know why he went to the line of scrimmage and tried to catch up to Scanlon, because as soon as Scanlon hit that first step, he was gone, and Rodgers put it on the money. 72 yards later, we're watching the Packers score another touchdown. It's just, I think the defense needs to make these adjustments before Sunday's game against the Saints, because
it comes down to, like you said, because to me, I said to my dad when he first said, okay, the Bears are playing the Saints, the first thing that comes to mind is Thomas is still out, isn't he? He's not playing, right?
I think he was done for the year.
Okay, so the first thing that comes to my mind is Kamara. So, and then I think then the reason I wanted to ask you right away is Roquan, is because if Roquan's not playing, dude, Kamara will tear us apart.
Yeah.
Because they will just pick if Woods or Danny or Woods. And I love Danny too. We've talked about Danny on our podcast before, but he flat out, he's slower than Roquan. So Roquan's our only chance of Kamara will just, the way they will scheme against us, Kamara will torch us if Roquan's not playing. So to me, the key to the game is if Roquan's playing, because because the key to the game to winning is shutting down Kamara. If we shut down Kamara, I think we win. I flat out told my dad, I said to my dad, if we stop Kamara, we beat the Saints. And me and you talked about this on the podcast. If the Bears make it to the playoffs, we feel supremely confident if we face the Saints. I do, because we faced them at a time when Foles was playing and Nagy was still calling plays, and it was all a trash fire that was going on, and we still came close to beating them.
Yeah, I looked back to find that game. That was back in Week 8, and the Bears lost 26-23 in overtime. But if the Bears can shut down Kamara, I have no doubt that the Bears have a good chance of winning, because if they can shut down Kamara and force Drew Brees to throw, they're going to be a lot more comfortable, because I love Drew Brees because he went to Purdue. that's an Indiana boy, and Drew Brees is just
Yeah.
like the nicest quarterback in the world.
Yeah.
He has struggled since he came back from
Yeah.
that injury against the
He's no
49ers.
Rodgers.
No,
So
no, no. He's smart, but like the yards aren't as there anymore. And he's turned the ball over. Like he's thrown 6 touchdown passes in the last 3 games and 3 interceptions at the same time.
yeah.
So I think there's no way if the Bears put pressure on him, the Bears are putting pressure on Rodgers today. It's just that Rodgers can become so oblivious and he gets so into a zone that I felt like every time the Bears got close to him, he just didn't even notice it and threw right on the dime. Every time, like a second before the Bears got to him, he threw a dime piece and got a first down.
Yeah.
If the Bears can get Drew Brees in trouble a lot and put some pressure on him, there's no doubt that I think the Bears can win that game because if the Bears hit him good enough, I don't think he's gonna get back up.
Yeah,
there's 24 ribs in the human body. He fractured 11 of them.
Yeah.
How do you expect someone to still be at their top level? I'm not saying that I want the Bears to go out and hurt him. I just think that he's gonna think twice about getting hit again and again.
Yeah, he's not going to be at his full.
No,
So,
and that's been obvious the past couple of games.
Yeah. So, and then you go back to that. So then a lot of fans, I know I haven't looked at social media or anything, but I'm guessing are saying, well, you see what the Bears do against a real opponent. And obviously the score doesn't really show what that game was. The score says 35-16, looking like a blowout, but that game wasn't really a blowout. It all comes down to one possession, us not getting the fourth and the third straight 4th and 1. It comes down to that. It's a one-score game, really. It's really a one-score game.
It really
it's not
is.
Really. So, because the Bears get that first down, who knows what we're talking?
Well, you look back at that play, and I'm like, why are we running a play out of shotgun on 4th and 1? And then Jimmy Graham, I don't know where his mind went, but he totally ran the wrong route. He didn't go in the same way Robinson was going. He just went upfield and ran into the defender. And at that point, Trubisky's like, I have nowhere else to throw it but to A-Rob, and he's getting covered like airtight defense.
Yeah.
It was hard it wasn't Trubisky's fault in that play. It was clearly Jimmy Graham running the wrong route.
I mean, like you said, man. I mean, we said we talked about this game on one of our other podcasts, and a lot of the things that we talked about happened. If we could control the ball longer than the Packers, we have a good shot of winning. They showed up on the thing of how much time of possession we had compared to them.
Yeah.
We did a good job in that category. That's something that you alluded to. And then something that I said was the only way we lose this game is if Rodgers has one of his Rodgers games to where he throws for 4-something touchdowns. And what he do? He threw. He had one of those games. So.
When a great quarterback is on like that, there's nothing else your defense can really do.
No.
But Joe, there was 3 times. There was 3 times he should have thrown interceptions, and the Bears didn't capitalize on it. So I think
that's enough.
Whatever the Bears did in that second half, in that third, the fourth quarter, before that 4th and 1 conversion, if they can get back to that, if we get another shot at Green Bay, the Bears have a legit chance of winning that game. We were putting pressure on them. Yeah.
And Jalen and Roquan are healthy. That's 2 huge things.
Yeah. What was that?
Because if Roquan's not healthy, we ain't going nowhere.
Was that Jalen Johnson's 3rd missed game in a row?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to hear – I haven't really heard anything about him. I'd like to hear what's really going on with him.
Well, I think it's also fair for us to thank the LA Rams for going out and winning that game against the Cardinals, because if they didn't, we'd be sitting here talking about how frustrated we were that the Bears had the playoffs in their hands, and it slipped right through our fingers once again. But Joe, here's the thing that bothers me is I hate negative fans. Drives me up the wall, because I don't want to say that I am a positive thinker, like everything's right with the Bears, like they can't do anything wrong, and everything that goes wrong, there's a reason for it. I just like to say that I'm optimistic that 8-8 doesn't show how good of a team this is. I feel that if we had handed off the reins to Laser a lot sooner, and a lot of these games, middle of the year, we were very close. Like New Orleans, we only lost by 3 points. We could have won that game. We could have won that
So,
game.
okay, yeah, so if you go back, okay, let's realistically go back through some of the games and think about one, because you don't, like you said, you don't want to be the overly optimistic fan.
Right.
So I already sitting here think of two games that should have flipped the tide already. I think of the Vikings game that we lost. We should have won that game with a real
The Monday
offense.
night one. Yep.
Legit, yeah, legit. That's a game we should have won with if we had the like. If I think that if Laser got handed the reins earlier, we win that game. Then you talk about the Saints game. I 100% think that that's a game as well. I'm trying to think of some of our other losses, but that's two games.
I have it pulled up. You want me to tell you? Want me to tell you the games we lost early in the
Yeah,
year?
let's go through them because those are two for sure that I
All right.
think.
So first one, Colts. The final score 19-11.
Okay.
That was
Yeah.
Nick Foles' first start, and the Bears score over 20. We win the game because the
Yeah,
Bears
so
defense was still
wait.
really good at that point.
But yeah, let's say I know we talked about that game at another podcast as well. So let's just say for non super optimistic purposes, the Colts were playing super well defense at that point. So let's just say that even if Laser got handed the play calls, we still lose the game just because the Colts were so hot defensively at that time.
All right, 24-10 against the Rams on Week 7.
That's a game that I think is a lot closer.
Yeah,
for sure.
26-23 overtime loss to the Saints.
So we won that one.
17-24 loss to the Titans, which we had that game tied up. It wasn't for Montgomery getting stripped and scoop and score for the Titans.
Yeah, there's a lot of punts on that in that game as well.
19-13 loss to the Vikings. It's the one you alluded to.
Yeah.
And then the ugly 34-30 loss to the Lions. I leapfrogged the 41-25 loss against Green Bay because there's no way we're going to win that one. But the loss to the Lions, we should have won.
So three games that we should have won at least. So you take away three of those losses and add on three more wins, and we're 11-5.
Yeah, exactly.
That's legit. That's legit, non over optimistic. That's three games that we legit should have won.
And you go on social media and you see these people like, oh, the Bears made the playoffs at 8-8, and like they're laughing about it, like, oh, they don't deserve to be here. Mitchell Trubisky's their quarterback. Have you not been paying attention? Have you not looked at how we've been moving the ball better? And if our defense can wake up and perform like we did against Houston and Jacksonville, we'll be fine. We'll be set. We'll be ready to go. But it's getting back to that point. Pagano needs just to simplify the defense and say, you know what, guys, I trust you to go out and make the plays that you guys did before I even got here. And you know what? Coaching carousel is coming around the corner. And I said this. You remember in the French Revolution how they have the guillotine and they start cutting heads off? That's how some of these head coaches go if they didn't have a great year. So there's one guy I hope gets his head cut off and can come back and put his defensive coordinator head back on, and that's Vic Fangio up in Denver. I'm hoping that he'll get fired by Denver, and the Bears are like, hey, you know what? If you want to come back and get your old job,
oh, man.
come on. We need you. The defense looks exactly the same as you left it, except we added Robert Quinn. Yeah, Robert
and Jalen Johnson. You got a rookie corner. It's better than Prince. So
come on down, Vic Fangio. I hope that's what happens. But
dude, I love that.
Other than that, as we're doing this, the football team of Washington is battling the Eagles, and if the football team wins, they go to the playoffs. But other than that, the playoff picture is already set.
Rams and Seahawks.
Of all the games, of all the wild card games that are coming up next weekend, which one do you think is the most exciting outside of Bears and Saints? Because obviously we can't show favoritism on Bears and Saints. What game should people look forward to heading into next weekend?
Does it have to be NFC or no?
You can pick any game. Any game.
Okay. There's two games that I think of right away that come to mind right away, and they're both AFC games. The one is just because obviously it's my dad's favorite team, and it's going to be cool to see him root for the Browns in the playoffs. And that's a Sunday night game against the Steelers and everything. That's going to be a cool game to watch. And then the other one that me and my dad both talked about that I think is going to be a really good game is Titans and Ravens. I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch. You got Derrick Henry going at Lamar Jackson's offense. That's going to be – those are two AFC games, but I think outside of the Bears And then obviously that Browns game, I think I'm most excited to watch the Titans and Ravens game. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Rams and Seahawks. As you said, that one. That's a rivalry game. I love rivalry playoff games because they know each other so well that usually have great plays going on, and it gets a little feisty out there when there's high emotion going on in the game. The whole season's on the line. You've been working to get to this point, and now you have to face this team for the third time for another
yeah,
60 minutes. That can get a little irritable. So sometimes you
absolutely.
get some fireworks, and I have to agree on Titans and Ravens because you have the two most thrilling players in the NFL, Lamar Jackson, quarterback of the Ravens, and my favorite player, the best running back in the league, Mr. 2000 himself, King Derrick Henry. He should be getting more looks at MVP, but I cannot wait to see him play against the Ravens defense.
You know, it's going to be our luck that we say highlight on this game, Sauce and Hensch fans highlight in on this game, and then all of a sudden either the Saints or the Ravens blow out one another, and it's a terrible game.
Well, I hope that the Titans defense shows up because if that's the case, then we got some good. But how am I supposed to sit here and say, Bills and Colts? The Bills have looked unstoppable the last couple of games.
Yeah, I was going to say that game, but I feel like that's a type of game to where if I said that game, I could totally eat my words and the Bills just come out and just – because like you said, they've been on fire. So.
And then Tampa Bay over the NFC East division champions, either that be the football team of Washington or the New York Giants. That would be an upset, but I just don't see Tom Brady losing that, especially the way they've been moving the football too against these I don't want to say mediocre teams, but subpar teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're talking football, but one Chicago team lost, but another one got the win today. The Chicago Bulls at home against the Luka Doncic-less Mavericks. I guess that's how you would say it. 118-108. Joe, I will have to say one thing. Zach LaVine's on my fantasy team. He got me over 60 points. Got the win over Mags this week. Thank you, Zach LaVine. The bad part about this is that Zach LaVine went out and he scored 29 points in the first half. You know how short-lived that was for him?
Very short. He's finished with –
No joke. I think they said 17 minutes later, Steph Curry scored 34 in the first half against Portland.
Oh, jeez. Jeez.
And
dude. That's – I mean, they say you say Doncic-less Mavericks, but I mean we're sitting here without Satoransky, without Hutchinson, without Markkanen, and then without fourth. What's the name I'm forgetting?
The other point guard,
Archie Daquino.
Yep.
So 3 of huge role players in the offense, and we looked good tonight, man. Kobe had a really good game as well. 23, 7 and 5.
Side note before we get really into the Bulls, I think this is pretty cool. Steph Curry scored 62 points tonight against Portland. That's a career high. He hit 8 threes on 16 attempts. He was 18 for 19 at the line, 18 for 31 from the field. I just thought it was cool to give Steph Curry a shout out for all the
credit to him.
Yeah, for all the rap he's been getting because of how bad the Warriors have been, and he hasn't been playing up to his best potential. But when you go out and score 62 points, you kind of get those critics off your back. But back to the Bulls, I have to agree with you that Kobe White kind of looked slow to beginning with, but Zach LaVine was just on a tear. Kobe started hitting some big threes down the stretch.
Yeah, Stacey King said it at the end of the game. Kobe finished the second half at 21 points, and I mean – it's hard to some non-basketball fans will sit there and be like, Kobe didn't do anything in that first half though. Well, what are you supposed to do when your teammate has a hot hand like that? Feed him the rock? Are you crazy?
Did you watch The Last Dance with – yeah, of course you did. You watched absolutely. The Last Dance. There was a point where they said, when Michael has a hot hand, you just give him the ball and get the bleep out of the way. And I say bleep because exactly what they said, and I can't say it on the podcast.
Scottie Pippen said, he's like, you just get out. Into that deep voice, you're like, you just get out of the way.
That's what happened. And that's what happened with Zach LaVine tonight. They just fed him the rock and let him work because the Dallas Mavericks had no answers. And the good part about that, Joe, is LaVine even noticed, now they're starting to double team me. So who's open? And that's what creates more opportunities for your teammates. So Kobe got to just hand it off to Zach and go sit in the corner and go back to his shooting guard days.
Yeah,
Because he's not
absolutely.
good at the straightaway threes. He's just not. It's a cold zone for him. But in the corners, it's a hot zone. It's red hot. You just give him the
Yeah.
sriracha sauce at that point. He can't miss from out there. He can't. And that's what
Absolutely.
happens. You swing it down low to Gafford or Thaddeus Young, and they find Kobe in the corner, and Kobe's going to make it every time. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that Levine is mature enough to understand, like, I don't have to force anything. Just back up, dish it out, and stand out of the way and let my guys score.
Dude, Zach looks, if he's not an all-star this year, man, I will lose it. Cause like, he's just one of those players that your eyes get drawn to no matter what he does in a game, whether it be his first step to a lane and just blows by everybody, or his sweet shooting stroke, or he had a pass towards the end of the game to
Otto.
Yeah. Just no look, two hands, whips it to the middle on a cut from Otto. Like,
it was on the money too. He caught it and then laid it up.
Yeah, and then so like you talk like everything I just said is offensively, and then defensively he's been stepping up this year. I mean, the game against we haven't been able to talk about a couple Bulls games lately, but a couple games ago, the win we had against Washington in the first game against Washington, Beal drives to the lane and
you get the block.
Quickly slide. Yeah, he shuffles, stays in front of him, stays straight up, and blocks Beal straight up. Like year ago, Zach's maybe like letting him blow by, shoulder checking him, foul, and he goes to the line, or just lets him blow by. But because he's always had the athleticism to stay in front of guys like that. It's just the want to do it, and now you see it. He wants to be that two-way player, and it's awesome to see because he has the potential to be really, really good.
Yeah, Zach LaVine picked up 3 steals tonight. As of right now, he's averaging 1.7 steals. I'm not sure if that accounts for tonight's also, because I'm looking at from today. I'm not sure when they update this, but that's a career high. He had 1.5 last year, but he's at 1.7 right now. There might be more depending on if that's been updated. But when Zach gets steals, that creates easy offense. As the old saying goes, great defense leads to easy transition offense. And Zach LaVine in an open floor is scary. You might as well just get the what do you call the person that has the 2 sticks on the by the airport that show them the landing zone?
Landing zone. I don't even know. Landing zone person.
We'll call them that for now. But they do this, and that's what happens when Zach LaVine's in an open floor. Let's just be ready for takeoff.
Yeah.
But I will say, I was looking at because I know that a solo podcast might be in order because you're still in Florida until you come back. I was looking at different rookies, and you still have Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, Marquise Steibel from the Kings, who's been the 12th pick, and an absolute steal for him. The 4th one I put was LaMelo Ball, and it was hard to find that 5th guy because no one else has really got the solid playing time. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to do it. I put Pat Williams there because not of his offensive numbers, because you have to understand, you have Kobe White, Wendell Carter Jr., who's been on a tear since Laurie went down with COVID tracing, so he hasn't really had it, but he's in the protocol. Then you have that Kobe
and Zach LaVine.
Did I say Zach?
Not yet. And Otto Porter too.
Yeah, you don't need to score tonight.
No.
3 steals and 2 blocks, and one of them he blocked Willie Cauley-Stein. I swear I had flashbacks of Kawhi Leonard. I think it was a series against Denver last year, and he blocked someone with just like his ring finger. It made me think like Pat. Every time I watch him now, I think of Kawhi. I can't get it out of my head. Even when he's like Kawhi was a raw shooter coming in. He wasn't a great 3-point shooter, and Pat's not great, but he has potential to be better at it.
You can see it for sure.
But his pull up at the elbow looks exactly like Kawhi's, and the way he plays defense and the way he flies from the help defense, and he has great leaping ability. Pat Williams could be the next Kawhi Leonard. And I don't know how no one was talking about him going in, because when you and I were both sitting there, just rooms down, like hallway down, and they drafted Pat Williams, and I'm like, who is this guy? No, we heard about the Denny of how do you I almost botch his name.
Advia.
Advia. Yeah,
And we
Advia.
saw him. We saw him, and I mean, he looks comfortable in Washington. But I'm sitting here crapped on gladder that we took Pat Williams over
Right.
him. To be
Right.
honest,
So I was really happy to see him play defense because we don't need offense. We need defense.
yeah.
It's just icing on the cake if he can score more, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
fine if he doesn't.
You see the
Because
ability. You see it, like you see flashes of it to where he'll like not even like, yeah, you mentioned the pull up and the three-pointer shot. But like you see flashes of him just being able to manhandle people driving to the lane
exactly,
and like just muscling in, and it's like you see flashes of it when he needs to, but I think he totally understands that he doesn't need to do that right now.
exactly. Like he knows that he's out there for his defense, and if
Yeah,
he scores, he scores, and he's going to take high percentage looks because he's not going to get too many scoring opportunities when you have Zach LaVine, who's going to most likely average around 23 to 25 points, which is phenomenal, and he has to be the most
yeah,
underrated player in the NBA. I put him up.
easily.
I'd put Zach LaVine up there, and I'd also put the Pacers' Domantas Sabonis up there. Sabonis is
Oh
almost
yeah.
averaging a triple-double, and no one's talking about it.
No,
So
no, not at all.
the Bulls are 3-4, which is beautiful. Nice,
Beautiful.
it'd be a nice win over Dallas, and our next game is Tuesday against the Portland Trailblazers,
Yep.
which I'm expecting a lot of offensive numbers from that game because now one, it's a West Coast game, and two, the Trailblazers defense just gave up 62 points to Steph Curry. So
Yeah, we got
expect
a West Coast. We got a West Coast trip coming up, which is always a tough trip for the Bulls. But if we can squeak out some wins here and there, man, I mean, like we said, you see flashes of this team, man. Like you see some flashes but it's growth. We've talked about this over and over on our podcast. Whenever we talk about this team, it's growth for a young team. And you're going to have really good nights and you're going to have really ugly nights.
right.
But I mean, you need those really ugly nights to learn lessons. So,
Well, like the game against the Bucks, awful game,
yeah,
30-point loss, just awful. But
yeah,
that's what you learn. That's when you learn from your mistakes. And I think when you have a great coach like Billy Donovan, he's used to guys making mistakes.
yeah,
He coached in college. You think these college kids are coming straight to college and going like the straight LeBron James or Kobe? No, they learn. They sit there and they watch tape and go, "This is what you have to do. This is what you did." He explains it to them instead of being like Jim Boylan and making him do push-ups like it's a high school basketball practice. All right, guys, time to go to the line, do 20 push-ups, and do
Dude,
sprints. And I'm like, oh God, all right.
he's gonna be I talked about this in other podcasts too, but he's gonna be huge for Kobe, man. That was the best thing for Kobe's career, easily. Because you see it. It's a perfect example, like in the first half today. Like maybe if Jim Boylan's still the coach, or last year, if we want to go back a year, in the first half today, even if Zach's got it going, Kobe might try to force stuff still.
Yeah,
But in the first half today, he let the game still come to him and
right.
recognize that his teammate was hot and recognized, hey, I don't need to score here. I can be a facilitator as well. And I think that's Billy definitely whispering in his ear those kind of things.
Right. And there's moments in the Mavericks game today. I was like, wow, like that was beautiful. We're moving the ball around great. Like Thad Young drove the lane, made a nice pocket pass to Gafford. Gafford had a nice slam to end the third quarter.
Yeah,
And there was one possession where it was like Garrett Temple and I can't think of it, Thad Young. They were like playing catch with each other, and then Garrett Temple had to chuck up a three with a second left on the shot clock, and I was like, that was the
he
ugliest
traveled
possession
or
I've ever
something,
seen.
right?
Yes, it was some type of it was just an awful possession, and I seen a bunch of air balls today, and I'm like, you know what? It's interesting to see them grow and not sitting here being like boring because my team's just constantly blowing teams out. Yeah, it'd be great to see the Bulls blow out teams, but it's also really fun to see Kobe go from an awful game against Milwaukee to a great game against Dallas.
Yeah, it's growth. for fans like that who sit through a 30-point loss and then sit through a game today with a 10-point win, it's like you can 2 years, 3 years down the road from now when we're competing for a championship again, we can say, man, I remember when we were getting smoked a couple times early in the season.
Right.
Like that's cool. But some fans just want to be there for the glory and not for all of that. But that's not fandom, man.
It's those negative fans that are sitting there thinking, "Oh, the Bulls will never be good because they have a mediocre front office." Well, if you're paying attention, we changed it up.
Yeah.
And if you're paying attention, we've been drafting pretty good players that we feel.
Yeah, it's the same ones who are like, it's time to get rid of Lowry and Wendell.
Yeah.
I'm like, shut up, man.
And you know what? The 30-point loss to the Bucks may have looked bad, but I'm gonna tell you, Joe, the Bucks have made like somewhere around 60 threes in the last 3 games, and they broke the record for most threes made in a game, 29 against Miami, and they blew out a team that went to the NBA Finals a year ago.
Well, I mean, they said
that a year ago, a couple of months ago, and then they made 22 threes against the Bulls, in which case I've seen, I don't know how many of them were contested, and they just went in anyway.
Dude, I don't even know what that guy's – they mentioned his name like right when he checked in, and I recognized it but haven't heard of him in a long time. Forbes.
Oh, Brian Forbes, yeah.
He was like –
hit 4 threes on 6 attempts.
Yeah, I was like, who is like – we had a hand in his face a couple of times to where it didn't even look like the ball got in his hands from a pass and it was already off his hands. And I'm like, and he cashes it. I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah,
but like Stacey King was like, they went out and followed the Lakers blueprint of, okay, why has LeBron not been able to win the past few years? It's because nobody has surrounded him with legit shooters. Okay, let's go surround Giannis with legit shooters, like legit guys to where you may not be able to do jack else, but you can hit it. And that Forbes dude, I didn't see him do jack else in that game besides it. But if he was beyond the arc, man, he could cash it.
Yeah,
Same with Connaughton and other guys on that team, like surround him with dudes who can stroke it.
I'm looking at the box score, and Drew Holiday hit 3 threes, Chris Middleton hit 2, DiVincenzo hit 3, Brook Lopez hit 3, Bobby Portis, who I miss dearly, I love Bobby, hit 2, Forbes with 4, Pat Connaughton with 3, and the guy named DJ Wilson also hit 1. Yeah, even Giannis hit 1, and Giannis is a horrible shooter.
That's the only thing you can. That's the only thing you can do is just like, because so obviously being a coach, you go into the game and be like, okay, first thing we need to do is stop Giannis. Okay, how do we stop that? We clog the lane. Okay. Well, you clog the lane, and then you have guys like that Forbes dude and DiVincenzo and guys like in Middleton and freaking Lopez who's shooting them 6 feet beyond the arc and cashing them over his freaking head like Carlos Boozer. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now.
Well, that's what happened to them That's what happened to them last year in the playoffs when they struggled in that first round. And I believe they played Orlando in the first round, and then they went to play Miami. And what Miami did was they like you said, they clogged up the lane with Bam Adebayo, who's arguably the best defensive center in the league. And Giannis had no choice but to kick it out, and the Bucks shot horrible from behind the arc. Like, it was awful. And and you wondered why they did so bad, because there was no shooting. There was just, if you stopped the paint, you stopped Giannis, and if you stopped Giannis, you stopped the Bucks. And then they beat him in five games? It was awful. Like, the Bucks just fell apart because of lack of shooting. If the Bucks can keep shooting the way they are, Joe, they're coming out of the East. It's simple as that. They'll come out of the East.
That's the NBA now. Like, if you can legit, we saw it in the first game of the season against the Hawks. We couldn't do anything, even if we played a good game, but you can't do anything when they're coming. Even if you trade two, like, they were just, if a team's cashing threes uncontrollably, like, good luck. Like, that's just the NBA now. And I mean, unless you can stop it and get a hand, I mean, you see it some nights, and then some of these dudes are good enough to where you get a hand in your face and play perfect defense, and they're still cashing it.
Like Steph Curry, or
Curry,
like Kevin Durant, another one. Trae Young has been Trae Young should be up there for MVP. And I hate to say that. Well, I don't hate to say it, but I don't know how anyone's not even talking about him even being remotely close to being an MVP candidate. The guy's been carrying the Hawks, and the Hawks are probably the most dangerous team right now because everyone sleeps on them because they've been an awful franchise for the past couple of years, and now they're
Dude, they're
top of the
good.
East somewhere. That's what I said in the first game. I said we just lost to a team that's just way better than us because they spent
They just had like
they spent a lot of money this offseason.
yeah.
That's what it came down to.
Bogdanovich, Capella,
Rondo,
Snell,
Gallo.
Dunn didn't even play. Like, dude, that's a starting lineup for most teams.
And John Collins is just an athletic freak. It's simple as
Yeah.
that. But I'd say, Joe, that if the Bulls continue this trend and still sit around 500, there's a very good chance we could sneak ourselves into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're going to get very far, but to give the guys that experience of like, this is what the playoffs, like Zach LaVine's been in the NBA for what, like 6-7 years now. He's never been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because he went from the Timberwolves, who were awful, until they got Jimmy Butler for that 1 year, and I think they made the playoffs as a low seed. And then he's been to the Bulls, and yeah, we've been rebuilding since we traded Jimmy Butler. So Zach LaVine was part of that trade. So I'd like to get him there. I'd like to see Kobe get there. Every young guy, and we need Laurie back because you and I talked about like we had our most improved players that we thought going in, and Wendell's been fitting the bill so far. He's looked great the past 5 games. I think they said everything around. Laurie was leading. Laurie was leading that category because he was cashing out, and he's driving the lane again. We've talked about this before. If he can go in and out all day, there's no one that can stop him because he's 7 foot and he doesn't move like he's 7 foot.
He was playing. He was playing out of his mind, man. He looked good.
If he got an open 3, I was already putting my hand up indicating 3 because I knew he was going to go in because his shot looked so much smoother than what it did. Because Joe, I didn't tell you this. Even on 2K, my guys on the Bulls, and they talked about Lauri Markkanen, and they said how Jim Boylan forced him to be just a perimeter shooter, to have him stand there, and then now that they have Billy Donovan there, that he can now attack the lane and get back to what he was doing. And I was like, did they listen to Sauce and Hensch when they recorded this?
Whoa, 2K listened to Sauce and Hensch there.
Look at that. Look at that. 2K certified.
Oh, man.
But I tell you what, it's fun to actually see the team come together. And
absolutely, man. Wins like this, there's nothing like wins like this to where I think we've talked about this a couple times before, both about the Cubs and the Sox. There's so many things that remind me a lot of it. Whenever you have a game like to where the young guys do well and you get a win like that, it just makes you feel good. Like you look at a stat line, and Kobe's stat line, and obviously Zach is always like that, but a guy like you look at a Kobe White stat line tonight and you're like, and a Bulls win, like it wasn't a Bulls getting smacked by 30 points and he had a stat line. No, it was the Bulls winning by 10. And he had a stat line like that. Like that just puts a good feeling in your stomach. Like, hey, we got something going here. And throughout our 3 wins and even through even that Warriors loss, you see really good signs of this team, which is, it's not like some teams to where it's just like in a rebuild or coming out of a rebuild where they're just getting smacked every night.
Well, the big hype,
4 out of 7 games.
The big hype going into the year was the backcourt, Kobe and LaVine. Those were the 2 guys everyone was talking about. Like the Bulls could have one of the strongest young backcourts in the NBA heading into the season. To give you an idea, that's what I have. I'm gonna break it down to you. This is how good they did tonight against Dallas. 62 points, which Steph Curry matched that himself, but that's Steph Curry with a team that's it's basically the Golden State Currys at this point. 13 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 steals.
That's not – do you have their stats for the year so far or no?
I can. Zach LaVine, 24.6 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. And, hey, I forgot to mention, Kobe White got his first 10 assists a game the other day.
Yeah, double-double.
Was that the win? Was that a win? I can't think who it was. It was a game before Milwaukee. Yeah, the win over Washington, the second one. Kobe averaging 15.7 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 5.4 assists.
That's good.
It's very good.
I'll take that out of my backcourt.
Yeah, I can't wait. Even Gafford had a night. I didn't realize he did that good. He had 12 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist.
let's talk about just a quick little segment, or not segment, just a little quick minute on him, man. Like, if he can keep playing like that, dude, coming off the bench, I mean, I love him. Even he could go 0 for 6 in a game with however many. I just like his energy that he brings.
There's always that one guy on the team that only true fans enjoy watching because of the energy they bring. Like for me, it
Yeah.
was always Bobby Portis. I loved Bobby, and it's
Before
funny.
him, it was always Joakim and Taj. Like
Yeah,
that. I mean, the Bull. It seems like the Bulls have always had a guy like that.
I think every team needs that type of guy.
Yeah.
Like for the old Thunder team when they had the big three of Harden, Durant, and Westbrook, it was always Westbrook.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we drafted Portis and we had him for like 3 or 4 years, traded him to Washington, and
For
then
Otto.
yeah for Otto. But the funny part is then we go to the draft and guess who we draft? A center from the University of Arkansas, which is Daniel Gafford. And I
Yeah.
remember getting a text from Mags and he goes, "Did the Bulls really just draft Bobby Portis 2.0?" I said, "It looks like they did." And you know what? I'm okay with that. He's not as good as
Yeah.
a shooter as Bobby, but man, the kid's athletic.
Oh, dude, I did the main thing I love about him is he can get the ball at the free throw line and the dude's trying to dunk it. It doesn't matter where he is. He's going up for a dunk. That's what I love. And that's something I always used to yell at my dad about was like, I'd rather a dude go up for a dunk every time. Like the dude who used to make me the most mad, like I had a love-hate relationship with this player on the Bulls was Carlos Boozer. Because I was like, there were so many times that like 1 out of 10 times the dude would throw it down. And I felt like 9 out of 10 times he tried to do some fancy up and under layup and get swatted. I'm like, dude, you're 7 foot tall. Just dunk the ball, man. Like, and that's what I love about Daniel Gaffers. He don't care where he is on the court. He's trying to dunk it on somebody.
He's basically like a really young Blake Griffin when he came out of Oklahoma to the Clippers. It was just like, I'm going to go punch that rim, and if you're in the way, good luck because
Yeah,
Stacey King's got the poster maker over there, and
yeah.
I'm going to put you on it.
He
You're going
like
to be, you're gonna be the
and
star.
if he gets in the paint, man, like I feel bad for cover up your goodies if you're around him, man, because he swings some elbows when he gets in the paint like no other. He don't care where he is. He just starts swinging his bows around, and then all of a sudden he puts one down.
I think, and you're pointing out like Daniel Gafford might be your favorite Bulls player. I have loved Thaddeus Young with all my
Oh
heart.
yeah,
When the Bulls signed him, I said, "Thank you. We got a nice veteran leader that can literally do
yeah,
anything. Like he can score, he can rebound, he can pass, and he's not that. He's pretty good at defense."
yeah. You sit there and you like Stacey King says it a lot. I always say Stacey King's name. I think he has a lot of smart things to say throughout the game, but he always says coming off our bench, realistically, like when healthy, you have 4 veteran guys that legit can start on most teams and have been starters
Oh
on
yeah.
most teams everywhere. Sadorensky, Temple, Otto, and Thad. That's 4 huge veteran pieces that you see in games Billy has leaned on and are 4 legit starters. And I mean, Temple might not be a legit starter on most teams in the NBA now, but I'd venture to say that Thomas, Otto, and I'd venture to say Thad as well would start on most teams in the NBA
Well, to give you
right
an idea,
now.
to give you an idea how good Otto's been doing when he's healthy, is that 133 to 130 win over the Wizards. He scored 28 points and had 12 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. And this is a
I
guy
said
that
that
comes off.
stat line to my dad, and I was like, he just had a 28 and 12 night, man. Like,
He only comes off the bench because Pat Williams is a defender, and then Otto then knows and realizes that I'm the number one scoring option on the bench, so I'm still going to get my shots up. It's just I'm not going to
yeah,
suit up. And I know like when like in the 90s, like if you're the best player on the team, you're a starter. It was
yeah,
clear as day. Like if you like you had to be a starter if you were the best one of the best players on the team. But some like nowadays it's more. You know what? We have two lineups: our starters and our bench players. And Otto, you're going to feel a lot better on the bench than you would in the starting lineup because then we'd have 3 scorers instead of just 2, and then you can come off the bench and be our first scoring option with Thaddeus Young, and then we have a facilitator and Sadaransky, who I misinterpreted that he wasn't a great player, but he's actually I love Sadaransky now. Now that I actually got to
He's
see
very
him.
good in that second unit. Like,
He really is.
I love Arch and stuff, but like Sadaransky just does a great job of settling in the offense. And like if the other team ever gets on a roll, Sato does a good job of I feel comfortable enough for Sato to kind of calm it down and find a good shot.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this one up because I know you want to go to bed. It's almost midnight in your neck of the woods, and you gotta go back out in the beautiful Florida weather tomorrow. And I don't know if you've been seeing, but we've been getting snow up here. It snowed here in the Chicagoland area. It snowed in Manchester. So I'm pretty sure it snowed in Fort Wayne. I'm sick of the snow.
I know it did. I know I look out the window right now and I can tell you for sure it didn't snow today. So
no, but you did wear your bear sweater as we talked on the last podcast.
I did wear bear sweater.
I'm assuming that you carried a drink around you the entire time you were out there because it probably did not feel good to be wearing long sleeves like that in the Florida weather.
I absolutely. I mean, I am in Florida. I did drink around the countries in Epcot, so it wasn't water that I had a drink of, but it was a drink.
Now you got me jealous, man. But I do want to say, because the game just ended, the Washington football team won 20-14. They are the NFC East Division champions.
Good for that. That was the team that I wanted to come out.
Ron Rivera, 85 Bears defense. I found his football card the other day. I'll have to send a picture of it to you after we're done, or another day.
Put it on Twitter too.
I'll put it on Twitter. I'll put it with the Montgomery card I pulled. Not too before he started going off. So I think I'm gonna have to put this up and frame it and tell my kids that David Montgomery carried the Bears to the playoffs in the 2020 to 2021 season.
And Bill Lazor, hey.
Bill Lazor.
Bill Lazor some crap.
It was a laser show in these last couple of games.
Hey, we're in the playoffs, man.
Bears in the playoffs, and the Bulls take a 10-point win over the Dallas Mavericks. They'll play again on Tuesday against Portland. And, yeah, like you said, we play Portland, Sacramento, the LA Lakers, and the LA Clippers. So,
and then we got the
Bulls fans, we're going to be in for a nice tight couple of games.
And Bears fans, buckle in. We got the Saints. Hope Roquan's healthy so we can cover some Kamara and beat them and continue the Saints playoff woes. But please, Bears fans, I know there's a lot of negativity out there, but
it's easy to fall into that. Yeah, it really is.
Enjoy it. We're in the playoffs. Enjoy it. It's better than sitting at home. I'd much rather Bears be in the playoffs than sitting at home. So
exactly, yeah, I'd rather be like last year. We had high expectations of Bears going to the playoffs, and they didn't go, and it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch playoff football at that time then because it was like, oh, well, no Bears. So we finally got a taste of it 2 years ago, and we lost that double doink game to the Eagles. Probably
in the playoffs. Enjoy
the worst heart pain ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not even put that juju on us this year.
I agree. But I will say, Joe, that you had a good idea doing a Throwback Thursday or a Way Back Wednesday. Yeah. So maybe I'll go back and watch the 2006 NFC Conference Championship game of the New Orleans Saints and the Chicago Bears and do a breakdown of that.
I'll be getting back on we should be getting back Saturday. So if we wanted to do some sort of if we both wanted to watch that game and do like a what would we want to call that? Some sort of replay of some sort like that and recap that game since we're going to face the Saints.
We'll come up with something spunky. We're creative-minded guys, I like to say.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look for that, fans, because that'd be a fun one, especially since we got the Saints on that.
And if you guys have any ideas of what if you want us to do, and if you guys have any creative thoughts of a sports show should do this, just make a comment beneath the YouTube video that we posted for here. We're open to ears. We're willing to do anything. Yeah, absolutely. We're willing to do anything that's fun. Because I'm assuming you guys want us to be the same excited Chicago fans that we are. I plan on doing a solo one later this week on the NBA until Joe gets back, which he said on Saturday. So maybe when he's packing up his things, we can meet up one more time before the Bears head down to New Orleans and battle the Saints for the playoffs. So make sure to like and subscribe to Sauce and Hensch. Joe, take it away.
Thank you all for joining us on this podcast. And how about them Bears in the playoffs, baby?
How about them Bears? All right, we'll see you guys next time here on Sauce and Hench.